Sorry about that. I muted the mic when I meant to turn it on. Ugh. It's your good buddy Spider, making a mess of things. As always, welcome to Kitty Media, the show. Despite the cough, I am feeling better. I've gone through multiple doses of medicine. I don't have nearly as much sinus drainage. I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. So welcome. This, you know what? This is episode 50. This is episode 50, and I didn't know if I would get this far when I started this, because as I've mentioned previous episodes, and I know I'm rehashing this, I have a tendency to not follow through with things. I have a tendency to get to a certain point and then get bored and then run out of things to talk about and then stop with things. But I've been reversing course in a few areas lately. And I'm fired up. Not like in a I've got something to say, but it just in a creative format. I'm fired up in creative ways. I'm kicking stuff on my table, don't mind me. I'm making a mess. I am a bit of a mess. But welcome to the show. Welcome to episode 50. What are we going to talk about? We have a lot to talk about. The biggest thing first to talk about, of course, because usually we start with like a weather report. I talk about what the weather is like in Ohio. And this is a big deal right now. The weather right now is absolutely horrendous. It's over the last several days. Cat just attacked my foot. Over the last several days, we've been under multiple weather advisories. It is January, as I'm recording this episode. January 27th. You'll hear this episode on the 28th on Wednesday. I'm recording it on Tuesday. And Winter Storm Fern. They've named it Fern. They have. This is a thing that you notice with hurricanes and with tropical storms. They name them names alphabetically to keep track of them chronologically. They're alphabetical and chronological so that you know, on December 22nd in 1975, winter storm something or other. So that historians and for meteorologists and anybody who deals with data can just instantly be like, okay, I know this storm, this is what happened, there were casualties, there was all this stuff, people were without power for this many days, and various things. It's a lot of various facts involved if you're into facts and figures, okay? So I get it, but this is Winter Storm Fern, which is kind of a weird name for a winter storm. I know it's just the next F in line, and maybe they used, I don't know, Fernando was already taken. I don't know. I haven't looked that deep into it. Fern implies that it's not a winter storm, but it's like a spring storm, because your ferns would be out. Or if it was flora, that there would be plants blooming, so it'd be like a spring-summer storm, right? I don't know. Having your winter storm named Fern is kind of weird. It feels it's kind of misleading. But maybe they were running out of names by that point. I don't know. But from Saturday through Sunday, it dumped over a foot of snow here in Ohio, in my part of Ohio. It completely just, my car is still covered. And the temperature has stayed extremely low. It's been below 20 degrees daily, which means that none of the snow has been able to melt. So it's supposed to continue that way throughout the rest of this coming week and into next week. So all of the snow that's fallen, it's going to stick there. It's not going anywhere. It's just sticking around, which is the big difference from in years past. We've had various amounts of snowfall, but then the temperature has gone up into the 30s and the 40s and whatever, and then the winters have been sometimes cold and freezing, but then they've gone up pretty quick, and the snow has melted, and there's been a lot of slush, and that's a whole other level of driving difficulty. But this was the first year in a long time where the temperature has stayed stable in the below freezing area. And so the snow is sticking around. It's not going anywhere. And then like today we had snow squalls that dumped another inch randomly out of nowhere over the course of like 20 minutes. And so you've got more snow on top of that, and it just stays and piles up and piles up and piles up. So it's a bit of a pain. Luckily, I have not lost any power. I've not lost any heat. My furnace is working. We don't have any difficulties. So it could be a lot worse. We've had years past where we've had failures in our heating or our electricity or various other things that we need to continue to be comfortable. And this year, despite the storms, we have not lost any of those things. So I feel very fortunate. So that's good. On top of that, of course, like I said, I'm starting to feel better. I've got a bit of a snuffly nose, but I don't have near as much sinus drainage as I had last week. Last week, I was still dealing with just drainage of mucus and whatever down the back of my throat, which I know people are going to be like, oh, that's gross. Why are you talking about that? But that's what it's like to have a cold that never seems to end. Let me go check on the cats. I think they're getting into something. Let's see what they're doing. No, get down. What are you doing? Don't leak out of that. That's not yours. Bad cats. It wouldn't be a, why is this, oh, dang. And now, of course, this cushion, the zipper on this cushion has broken. Of course it has. Of course it has. You know, whatever. We're not dealing with that right now. We're not dealing with that right now. It's a madhouse over here. We got winter storms. We've got kittens on the sink. We've got my couch cushions busting the zippers. So they're just... the cover on the phone is coming off. I don't know what to tell you. I just noticed this. But yes, we are surviving the winter storm Fern, as best we can. I've got food, I've got alcohol, I've got everything I need. Heat and light and power and all the great things of creation. So how are you? How are you doing? How are you feeling? It's been an interesting time frame for me since last week. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I have started recording and producing more music. A few years. See, I'm even having trouble talking. A few years back, I had basically retired from music. I was no longer feeling like an artist. I felt like that part of my life was over. I focused entirely on the professional aspect of doing these podcasts and doing the gaming videos and doing all of that. And then the bug just started to bite at the end of last year. For the last several months, I've kind of felt like maybe I have something to say after all. Maybe the well has not completely run dry on my lyrical capacity, because that's where most of the area was. I had the capacity to make music, but without the vocals it was kind of hollow and kind of empty. And when I decided that I was going to retire, it was because I did not feel like the lyrics I was capable of writing at the time were able to say much of substance. They seemed shallow. They seemed petty. They seemed about things that nobody would really be interested in. And recently I've gotten back into a mindset where I've decided maybe I do have some things to say. Not political commentary, not necessarily social commentary, but things that happened to me over the past few years in my personal life that may happen to other people, and other people may identify with it, and maybe they're going to be entertained to hear from it. And so I started putting some ideas down. And what I've been able to create over the past couple of weeks, since I started actually producing and writing again, I have 8 tracks of music. And I'm going to try to get a total of 12 without getting too burnt out on it. But it's a heavy album. It's my industrial metal album. It's an album I think that I've always wanted to make, but I didn't have the capacity to make. I didn't have the technology. I didn't have the knowledge to do it. And I'm hoping I have the vocal capacity to do it, because I think this album necessitates a certain direction of vocal presentation. And lyrically, instead of telling a story, like most of my past albums have all been story driven. There's been a common theme that's been, this is something I'm telling from beginning to end. And this one I'm not really doing that. This one it's more of a statement. It's more aimed at anybody who's looked at me and said, oh, well, you can't do that. You're going to fail at that. You're awful at this. Stop doing that. Or, any sort of person who's out there who's tried to do something to hold me down, to keep me from achieving a goal that I wanted to achieve, from being the best version of myself. People who like to level lawsuits against me, as evidenced earlier in these episodes. And this album is a statement. It's a statement that says I'm going to continue doing what I like to do. I still have the creativity. I still have the overall ability. I've still got it. And you don't. And you aren't going to put a stop to me with petty bullying tactics. And that's about it. That's the core bit of it. There's not much more of it than that, but I think I've done well with I have at least I have 2 full songs lyrically recorded. Not, vocally, but written down. I have 2 full songs written down lyrically. And I have multiple others in stages of choruses and verses and whatnot. The music is done on 8 total tracks, and the vocal lyrical parts are done on at least 2. with ideas for 3 or 4 more. So, sometime this year, it's 2026 as I'm making this recording, sometime this year, I'm going to release this album. And it's called Kingmaker. And there's a good story behind that will be revealed in time. I have some cover art that I'm pretty sure I'm pleased with. And I'm making progress on it. So sometime this year, 2026, is when that album is going to come out. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. What else do we have to talk about? It's episode 50, so I feel like we should have some momentous things. And there's things happening in the world. There's things happening in the United States. And I don't want to talk too directly about some of them because it's controversial, and I know people are going to have some opinions, and they're going to be mad regardless of what side of the issue I'm on. They're not going to care what side I'm on. They're just going to say, oh, you're on that side? You suck. And I don't take sides on most issues. I am going to say this, though. A lot of people are worked up about the immigration officers, the ICE, the ICE people, okay? In general, I've stayed out of that conversation because it doesn't have anything to do with me, and also I'm not gonna, in my town, and I don't want people to use this as an excuse to try to, if you send officers here because of what I've said, I'm going to be a little grouchy with you. I'm not using this as a platform to try to signal that, oh yeah, you should come to my town, there's probably some people here. I'm not saying that. I'm saying in my town, I have a lot of people from South America. And I don't know what their legal status is, and I don't care. I've said this on previous episodes. I do not care. They don't cause issues. They don't seem to be taking any jobs from anyone. They don't seem to be committing any crimes. They're just, doing what they do. And I don't know if they're legal or not. I don't care. It doesn't matter. They're not causing me any grief. They're not causing anybody else in the neighborhood any grief. So who cares? So I'm not going to be calling up the ICE people and saying, guess what I've got in my neighborhood? You should come to this address and check their green cards. I'm not going to do that. Because it's got nothing to do with me, and they're not bothering me, and they're not bothering anybody else. Live and let live. Right? But what I'm getting around to is Mr. J.D. Vance, the vice president. He's the vice president of the United States as of this recording. He came from Ohio. He was an Ohio person. He wrote a book that sucked. If you're a fan of the book, that's cool. If you're a fan of the movie that got based off the book, that's cool. I thought it sucked. It was not that good. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, he sucks as a person because his book sucked. I'm just going to say it was kind of a dumb book. I don't know. It's just, it didn't resonate with me, I guess. And the movie was not much better. But that's besides the point. That's not coloring my opinion here. I'm just saying that. He said during some interview recently, over the last couple of weeks, that they were going to start sending their ICE agents door to door to look for illegal people. And that you would have to let them in, or you would have to show them that you're a citizen and blah, blah. And here's where I say, no. No, I don't. If you knock on my door and you ask me if I have any people in my house, I'm going to say, well, that's not your business. I don't. I'm not harboring illegal immigrants. I'm not, whatever. It's just me and my little tiny family. But that's besides the point, isn't it? Like, I'm not going to just let you come into my house and just root around and look for stuff. There's a legal process to this. You have to have a court-ordered warrant, regardless of whether you're a federal agent or whether you're just a local police person, whatever. You have to have that piece of legal search. You have to be able to legally be able to search. You can't just come on in to my house. You can't. You absolutely cannot. No, there's nothing you can tell me that will convince me that you have the power to just march in here to look for what you want, regardless of whether there's anything in here for you to find. Because that's besides the point. You have to have, first, reasonable suspicion. And then you have to use that to convince a judge to sign off on it. And then you have to be able to take that and post and be like, hey, we've got this warrant. We're going to search your premises. And then, after that, if you find nothing and it's determined that your grounds for searching was baseless, I'm going to sue the shit out of you. I am going to sue the ever-living shit out of you for invading my personal space. That's not a threat. That's just how things are going to be. You come into my house and you say that, oh yeah, we have suspicion there's something illegal in here. And if there's nothing in here, which there's not, and you use the law to get in here, I am going to use the law to get my just desserts from you. That's how it's going to be. And if you come in here without a warrant and you bust in and say, we think there's illegals in your house, and you come in here and you don't find anything, you tear up my house trying to find something that's not here, you can bet I'm going to legally just 100% take everything you own. I'm going to be a millionaire. Because that's how that works. This is my private space. This is my private domain. I don't care if you're the vice president. I don't care if you're the president. I don't care who ordered you to come in here. If you don't have the paperwork, for one, I'm suing you. And I'm going to win. And if you do have the paperwork and find nothing, it means that you did not have reasonable suspicion because there was nothing to find here. You had no real evidence. You just wanted to bust in and take a look. And I'm going to sue you. I'm going to take everything. I'm going to take it all. I'm going to increase the deficit of the country by $1 billion. Or who knows, some arbitrary, ridiculous amount, because I know that you can pay it. So that's what I'm going to do. If you start sending agents door to door to look for illegals, you're not coming in my house. I don't have any illegals here, and that's besides the point. That's not the point. People will say, oh, well, if you don't have anything to hide, then you'll let them in. No, it's my private space. It's my house. No, you're not coming in. And if you force your way in, you're facing some lawsuits, and you're going to be destitute. I guarantee it. I will get the best absolute lawyers. I'll get you. So that part irritated me. Because the way that I look at politics, and I've said this before, the government should run without having to involve me at any level. The government and the country should work as intended without me having to put my face into it and be like, hey, what's up with this? Why isn't this fixed? Why isn't this working? That's the level of government that I want. I want everything to work without me having to pay attention to it. And you can say that that's ignorant, you can say that that's turning a blind eye, but I don't think it is, because right now I'm dealing with a lot of shit. This is an episode that's going to have a lot of the bad language, unfortunately. I'm dealing with a lot of shit because the prices of food have still not gone down. Oh my gosh, I'm still paying too much to eat. Food prices have still not gone down, and that's a federal issue, or it's a state issue. And I know that the state government of Ohio is corrupt as everything. Our governor sucks. Like, our governor is a swine and a toad, and I've said that before. And at this point, I don't care if anybody gets mad about it. He's an awful, awful, awful governor. He's done a terrible job. He can't get it right. He can't get anything right. And our state government is full of cronies of that who are all part of the old boys club, quote unquote. And I keep seeing ads on YouTube for the opposition, for the progressive people, for the people who are like, oh, we're going to make a change, we're going to and we're doing this for the citizens. But none of that has come through. None of that has actually come through, either through laws that have passed or through ordinances or anything. Nothing has changed. Everything has gone up. Everything has gotten worse. So, what are you doing? What are you doing? But that's what I want from government. I don't want government to be obvious. I don't want them to be embroiled in scandals all the time. I don't want them to be having to make statements about things. I just want it to work. I just want it to function. I just want it to do what needs to be done to make sure that the infrastructure and everything runs as smoothly as possible, so I don't even have to acknowledge that it's around. And if it does that, great. If it doesn't, we have issues. And I'm grouchy about it. Super grouchy. Speaking of things that make me grouchy, this is a minor gripe. This is a very minor gripe compared to what I just talked about. What I just talked about is kind of a big issue. But this is like a first world, old man shakes fist at cloud kind of thing. I've noticed something. Since I've become monetized on YouTube, and this is not a slight to YouTube itself. I don't want YouTube to think that I'm bad-mouthing them after they've just graciously decided to start paying me. But the advertising on YouTube. Let's talk about this for a second, because this is kind of, I'd never noticed this before. When I would load other people's things on YouTube, and I would get an ad because everybody's monetized, it would be, a minute, 2 minutes of ads, that kind of thing, and you can skip it, and it's no big deal. Now that I've got my own material that's monetized on YouTube, and I'm getting ad revenue, I've come to watch some of my own material just to see what kind of ads they're putting before my videos, because I'm just curious. And you can control it to a certain extent. Because YouTube is part of Google. Okay, YouTube and Google are a thing, and I hate Google. I hate Google. You hear that, Google? I hate you. I think you suck. I hate Google. YouTube affiliate or no, I hate Google. But I'm knocking things over now. You can, when you see an ad come up, if you don't like the content or whatever, you can block the advertiser, or you can block the ad at least, so you don't see the same ad multiple times. And it gets registered in Google's algorithm or whatever, and they try to show you better ads and that kind of thing. Big deal. But I never had to utilize that before. I never had to worry about, oh, I don't want to see this ad anymore because it's disagrees with things I believe in or anything. I wasn't that invested in it. I was just like, oh, this is an ad. I don't care. I'm not going to buy that. Skip. But when it was on my own videos, I was interested in what was being shown. And sometimes, and I don't know when this changed, I didn't notice this until recently because I never saw it before. But recently, you will get advertisements that are not advertisements. They're full-blown episodes of a podcast of somebody else's, or even a show, or the other day, well, just yesterday, just yesterday, I loaded up one of my videos to see how the ads were performing. And one of the advertisements, it's listed as an advertisement, okay, before my video, was a 20-minute episode of Peppa Pig. I know, the cat's upset about it too. But it's not an advertisement. It's a full episode of a cartoon show. It's a complete, total episode. 20 minutes of Peppa Pig. Like, who's going to sit there? Who realistically is going to load up one of my videos of me drinking alcohol or playing a game or having this podcast and be like, oh, there's Peppa Pig. I'm going to sit and watch this whole thing for 20 minutes. Where is the logic in allowing that to be a sponsored advertisement as an entire episode of a cartoon show? It doesn't make any sense. And then the other thing that's been coming up is an entirely different podcast that'll show up sometimes in front of my videos. It's a podcast called Call Her Daddy. Let's ruminate on that a minute before I get into it. What is the title saying? Is it saying the host is a lady and you should call her father and talk to him about what she's doing? Call her daddy? Or are you supposed to call her specifically? Is she the daddy? What sense does that make? I don't know. I don't know what we're talking about anymore. But apparently it's a female-focused, and I'm not using that as a negative way. I'm not trying to denigrate that it's female-focused. That's its own thing. The title makes no sense to me, and that's fine, whatever. But it's a female-focused podcast where some woman, I guess she was a musician or something. I don't recognize her name. Where she'll have other various guests on. She's had Avril Lavigne on, and she's had Michelle Obama on, and various other women, and they've talked about different things. But it is an hour and a half, sometimes a 2-hour long podcast. Okay? They will play this as an advertisement in front of my videos. A 2-hour long feminist podcast in front of my videos. Who is going to load up one of my videos and see this and think to themselves, oh, I'm going to stay and watch this whole thing? Which, again, I'm not making a stand against. I'm not saying anything negative about feminist podcasts or about women or about anything like that. I'm not saying anything negative about that. I'm just saying, how does any of that relate to any of my videos? If you've seen any of my videos, or if you listen to my podcast or anything like that, at what point do those two social fabrics connect? It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it. I've never known YouTube to have this type of advertising in front of videos in the past. I've never noticed it, but maybe because I've always skipped everything and I don't care. But that's not the only weird thing. Like, other times they'll have advertisements from PragerU, which is Prager University, which is the Christian right-wing. I don't know if they're an actual university or if they're just, they call themselves a university. They have videos and things you can watch and topics you can learn from, but they're, PragerU talks about right-wing stuff and Christian theology and various things. And they'll have 40-minute talks about things as an advertisement on YouTube. And what part of anything that I do just screams Christian fundamentalism? I have gone on record many times of saying that I don't worship a deity, that I will never worship a deity, that I'm kind of a jerk in that regard, that while I respect people's religions, I won't follow a religion. Why would YouTube think that, oh, this is a great fit as an advertisement? We'll do a 40-minute video of people talking through Prager University about conservative Christian values. Just play this in front of your alcohol videos. In front of your gaming videos about Doom Eternal. Like, what? I don't get it. I don't. The algorithm that decides these things is obviously not... It doesn't know what it's doing. And since more and more of these are controlled by AI, it just lowers my faith more and more in AI as a technology right now. People put all kinds of things into AI is going to change the world and this and that, and maybe it will. Maybe it will. I'm not going to say it absolutely won't, but right now, it's not doing anything. It's putting Peppa Pig and PragerU and Call Her Daddy in front of my videos on YouTube. I have to laugh because it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And if this is the best that AI can do right now, then it's an absolute failure. It is 100% a failure in understanding human behavior. But maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is not to understand human behavior, but instead to alter human behavior. Maybe it's just to make you do dumber things. Maybe it's to be like, oh, you know what? We're artificial intelligence, so we're going to artificially get you to be interested in different things. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's pretty dumb. It's fairly stupid, in my personal opinion. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. What else do we got? What else do we got to talk about? In my town recently, and this was kind of an irritating thing, the local school district, and I've talked about this before because this is one of the reasons my daughter is homeschooled, because the local school district is behind in its curriculum, behind what my daughter is learning. And she wouldn't learn much if she went to public school, so that's why she's homeschooled, where she learns a lot more The local school district in Stark County, Ohio is I think I mentioned this before, that they're consolidating their schools. They're closing some of their schools and consolidating into fewer buildings, so there's going to be larger student classes in their buildings. They're also cutting 70 plus positions, cutting 70 jobs across the district. And in closing various other buildings to consolidate the schools, that's how they're going to make their budget shortfall. They're going to close the gap on their budget deficit by firing 70 plus people, which is a mix of teachers and administration and people who are important to the running of everything. And it just reinforces the decision I made not to send my daughter to public school, because the public school around here is suffering, and it is going to continue to suffer at the expense of the students in favor of the money. And it's a shame. It really is a shame. And I can imagine that this is going to be happening across the rest of the United States, because the Department of Education, as much as I don't want the federal government to dictate what people should know and what they shouldn't as far as students go, you should have some sort of oversight over what's going on in the various states. You should be able to say, okay, well, everybody should be at this particular level of knowing this set of mathematics and this set of reading and this set of critical understanding and various things. And everybody in the entire country should have this level of this. A bare minimum. Right? And that's about it. I don't think they should be injecting, topics. I don't think the federal government should be saying, oh, well, you should be learning about biblical this, and you should be learning about Muslim this, and you should be learning about the great history of how great we are in the United States because we're so great. I don't think that so much. But I do think there should be some oversight in making sure that everyone knows their basic facts and be able to function in the world as an individual. You should be able to know your math so that you know when somebody's shortchanging you, or you should know how to read because you got to understand legal contracts and everything like that. There should be some baseline. And the Department of Education should be involved in that part, not in a patriotic, you should be able to tell about why America is the greatest in the world and how we will crush everyone and that kind of thing. Or we are a Christian nation. I don't think any of that should be in there. I just think there should be oversight into requiring you to know what you're doing, to have basic information to help you function in society. And they're not doing that. And the state's not doing that. And the state is just rolling back things over and over. And I think multiple states are getting that way. And that's a shame. That is really unfortunate. It's really too bad, because education, while I did not enjoy my time in school, I did understand the value of an education, and I did make sure that once I was out of school that I did learn things that I might not have learned in school, and I covered the bases, and I made sure that I understood topics and various things so that I could function as an adult. I know how economics works, which means I know how to take care of my family's finances. So I'm the financial guy in my family. I make sure we don't go too far over budget or under budget or whatever. I make sure I keep track of what we're spending on our groceries, on our various utilities and everything, and our leisure things that we want to do, and I try to make sure that we don't spend too much money. I'm not super tight-fisted about it. Like, I don't keep the thermostat at 68, as the meme goes. I like to be comfortable in my house, so my thermostat is set to 72. I know there's people out there like, what are you doing, 72? Just wear a sweater. I am wearing a sweater, and if I didn't have it at 72, I would still be cold. So, don't tell me how to heat my house. Anyway, but I made sure that I knew, regardless of what my high school and elementary school taught me, that I knew enough about basic topics to understand how the world works. I know how biology works, which is how I know that I need to take certain medicines to not be sick. Despite the fact that I've been sick for 6 months, some people would say, oh, you obviously don't know what you're doing, you should go to the hospital. Well, I don't think a hospital is going to help me. I know how the government is supposed to function. I know how economics is supposed to work. I know basic addition, addition and subtraction and multiplication and division, all that good stuff. I know how to read. I read very well. I don't know. I think these are things that the Department of Education should be more involved in, and they're not. And the department as a whole is now a hollow shell of itself. I don't ask much from the federal government. To return to an earlier point, I ask only that it functions. I ask only that it does what I need it to do, so that I can safely ignore it. And here in my town, in my state, the state government is failing in many areas, and it's really disheartening. It's just lacking in so many areas, and in the places where, and this is a big, I've said this before, I am not a marijuana smoker. I have before. Maybe in the future I will again. I don't know. I can't predict what'll happen. But I'm not a big marijuana fan. But that doesn't mean I don't want other people to do it, or I'm against it. I'm just saying it's not something that I usually get a big kick out of. But the people of the state of Ohio voted to legalize it. Recreationally. Not just medicinally, but also recreationally. And it passed. And now it just seems like every few weeks there's a new thing from our state government saying, well, we want to put a new restriction on it. We want to do this. We want to do this. We want to do this because we're protecting the children. And I get it, because people are irresponsible. And they do leave out their gummies and their various other things that kids can get a hold of. They have marijuana in them. So you should regulate that to a point. But they're trying to change it in ways that go against what they allowed the people to vote for. They had the opportunity to craft legislation when the people wanted it. And they did not do that. They dropped the ball. And now they're thinking they're just going to, oh, well, this isn't working and this isn't working, so we're just going to do this and do this. And it's just, you should never have allowed it to come up for a vote if you were just going to turn around and mess it up afterwards. But that's the state government. That's Ohio. That's Ohio. I don't think we're ever going to get a state government that is not full of people who are looking to fill their back pockets with thick wads of dollar bills. Because it seems like that's the only people who end up in charge. It seems like that is the only people who end up running things in Ohio. Which is a shame. And then they have the gall and the absolute guts to stand up and be like, we've seen what happens in Minnesota and we stand against it. Well, what are you going to do about it? You're in Ohio. You've got nothing to do with Minnesota. You're going to stand and make a public statement like, oh yeah, we would never allow that in Minnesota. But things like that happen here all the time. And nobody bats an eye. So that's the most I'm going to touch on that. I'm not going to get into the whole Minnesota thing because I know that's a hot button. I'm just going to say that our state leaders in Ohio made big talk about standing against that kind of thing, and you know they're not actually going to do it. It's all just a show. It's all just to curry favor with people voting when the next election comes up, hoping that they're going to get the people to pick them so that they can keep their seat and keep bilking us of whatever the taxes are. This episode got dark, didn't it? It got to be a dark episode. I didn't intend for it to be this dark, but once I get talking, I just go in a direction and I just go there and follow through, and that's just the way it is. How are things in your life? Feel free to comment on this episode. You can comment on Spreaker. If you are a member of Spreaker, I believe you can comment. If you are on Spotify, you can at least put one comment. I don't think you can put multiple. I think they only allow one comment, but you can put it on this episode. On YouTube, you can put comments. I would love to hear what you have to say. As long as you're not just going to call me out and just be like, you're just a big old douchebag. Well, whatever. That's like your opinion, man. Say something constructive. If you disagree with me, I'd love to hear why. I would love to hear your argument. And I don't want to make it to be an argument where we're just going to snipe back and forth. If you have something really considered to say, by all means, say it. I am interested. I am interested. But we're getting close towards the end. I want to say this weekend, if you are a pro wrestling fan, this weekend is the Royal Rumble from WWE. It's this next Saturday, I believe. It's in Saudi Arabia. And I've said this before. I'm a little irritated about that because of Saudi Arabia's human rights issues. They usually have 2 matches of the Royal Rumble. The event is called the Royal Rumble, but they have a men's and they have a women's. And the women's Royal Rumble, of course, is going to be, every woman is going to be in a bodysuit from neck to foot, with no bare arms showing. And I'm not saying that as a sexist, like, we should be able to see the women because they're attractive. I'm saying because the men don't do that. The men can be in the trunks and whatever they want to wear. But the women have to be from the neck down, completely every inch covered except for their hands. Their hands and their face are fine. But everything else completely covered, whereas the men don't. And you can say, "Oh, that's their culture." It's a pretty shitty culture. I said it. It's a pretty shitty culture. But that's... But the Royal Rumble is going to come up, and I'm sure I'm going to watch it regardless. And I'm going to review it. So the next episode that you listen to very likely is going to have a review of Royal Rumble 2026. There are a lot of rumors of people coming back for the Royal Rumble. Supposedly Chris Jericho is going to come back for the WWE. Excuse me. I don't know. We'll see. I would like to see what happens. So yeah, I will watch it. I am going to watch it on a VPN. I'm not going to subscribe to ESPN, which is the app that you have to watch your WWE premium live events on. Because I don't want to give Saudi Arabia any more money. I think they have enough. I don't want to support them in any of their artistic endeavors. Riyadh season, all that bullshit. Because their human rights abuses are numerous. They are numerous. But I will watch the Royal Rumble, regardless, after the fact. In a way that does not cost me any money and provide any more money into anybody's pockets that I don't agree with. But that's it. That's all I've got. This episode was a lot of complaining, and I didn't intend for it to be a lot of complaints, but it did end up being a lot of old man yells at cloud kind of things. But I think it's justified. I think a lot of it is justified. And what else were we going to do on episode 50 but invite a bunch of controversy? Right? If not anything else, what else were we going to do? So that's it. I'm going to let you go. Have a good night. I appreciate you listening. We have a lot of great content in the future, I'm sure, on the way. And we'll see how it goes. Here's to another 50 episodes of this show and not that other show about Let's Talk About Whatever. Have a good night.